Hi, welcome back. Akeisha Haid, Trini Chef. So, today I have a fun recipe to share with you, and this one is one that I like because it kind of utilizes something that's kind of going bad or just a leftover. So while in quarantine, one of the things I realized with my kids is 1 week they eat a whole bunch of something, and then the next week they don't eat it at all. So last week they was eating bananas like there was no tomorrow. This week they decided no bananas. So I ended up with 3 bananas here that, as you can see, they are very much overripe. However, instead of throwing those away or making banana bread, just in case you're not a big baker, I decided to show you a quick fritter recipe. So we're going to do some banana fritters with these leftover bananas. So we'll start. So I have the 3 bananas here. As you can tell, they're very overripe. So I'm literally just going to cut them and smash them up. So I have a bowl here. And this recipe is kind of one of those things where it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So I'm doing 3 bananas because that's pretty much what was left. And usually if I'm doing this recipe, that's kind of how I gauge the rest of my ingredients based on how many bananas I have. All right, so I have my 3 bananas in the bowl. Just take my whisk and mash them up, and this will take no effort whatsoever because these bananas are so nice and overripe. See that? All right, so my bananas are mashed, and then I'm going to add a few ingredients to this, and we're going to do wet ingredients first and then the dried. So I have some fresh nutmeg that I'm going to grate in here. As you can see, I'm using my microplane once again. Perfect for that. And then we're going to add 1 egg. I have here a little bit of vanilla. I have some cinnamon, a pinch of salt, and the salt is great because when you add salt, it actually brings out the sweetness and rounds out and balances the flavor. We're going to add some regular sugar. And you don't need too much sugar only because those bananas are very sweet on their own. One of the things, if you want to brighten flavor, and we talk about building flavors, everything can taste good, but some things just make it extra good. So orange and bananas and things that have cinnamon really brightens and rounds the flavor. So I am going to just do a little bit of orange zest into this. And like I told you guys before, the zest is where the flavor is at. So there's no need for me to use orange juice and add more liquid, but just adding the orange zest is more than enough. So I added my orange zest, which is good. I'm gonna mix that up a little. Oh, you should smell this. As you can see, this is the mixture so far. And then I'm going to add some milk. I have a cup of milk here. And so now this just kind of looks like a liquid mess. Okay. And then to that, I'm going to add my baking powder. And now that everything is incorporated here, I'm going to add the flour. And literally the flour is going to be enough to make this into a batter, because we're going to fry this when it's all done. So we're going to add flour, mix, check consistency. If we need more, we add more. And you don't want to overmix this as well because it is a fritter. And with fritter batters, you don't want it to be tough. The more you mix it, the heavier and dense your fritters would be. The less you mix it, the lighter your fritters will be, especially with that baking powder in there. So it looks like we're almost there. So just a little bit more flour. And using my whisk, it's almost like a folding motion that I'm using. So I'm not trying to mix it too much to develop the gluten in the flour. All right, so that's your mixture right there. All right. And then what we're actually going to do with this is we're going to have our batter. And then after we fry, we're going to set our batter aside for about 15 minutes to really let all the ingredients get together and for the baking powder to start doing its work. So we're going to let that sit for about 15 minutes before we start frying them. And then here I just have some organic sugar. You can use white sugar. I don't recommend using brown sugar just because of the texture. So white or organic sugar is perfectly fine. So I just have a little bit of sugar here. I'm going to add some cinnamon to that and make some cinnamon sugar. So I put it in a little bowl with a lid and shake that up. And there you go. We have our cinnamon sugar. And this is what we're going to roll our fritters in after. I like this recipe because I feel like while everyone is on quarantine, we're looking for, you know, fun things to do with the kids. It's a great recipe to do with kids, but it's also one of those kind of sweet things. So if you take your kids out for donuts or anything like that, this is a great substitute, and you make it from scratch, healthier. And then, as you know what's going in it. All right. So in 15 minutes or so, we'll come back and start frying off our fritters, and then we'll roll them in the sugar, and then we'll get to enjoy them. All right, folks. So it's been about 15 minutes since we've had our batter sitting. And so you can see the texture right here. So we're going to start frying. And this is just canola oil that I have here heated on a medium heat. And then we're gonna fry and see what our little fritters look like. So one of the things I use is an ice cream scoop because I find it much easier. My hands don't get dirty, and then I can just put a small amount of batter to fry at a time. So I use the ice cream scoop to get those in. And one of the things that with fritters is that it tells you when they're starting to cook and when they're almost done. So once your oil is at the right temperature, as you drop them in, they'll sink to the bottom and come right back up to the top. And then as they cook on one side, they'll flip over themselves to the other. And then you just have to kind of keep an eye on it for it to cook all the way through. You pull them out too soon, you'll end up with a runny middle. And you leave them too long, they'll end up burning. So we just want to keep an eye on them as they start flipping over, and just keep mixing them until they're that nice brown that we're looking for. So if you could see how they're flipping over. So you see there how they're cooking up nicely. And I want to make sure all of them have flipped over for the first time before I start mixing them up. All right, so all of them have flipped. And now I'm just keeping them moving a little. So I want a nice deep dark color, but I don't want them to look like they're burnt. So you just gotta keep an eye on them. And over here, when we're finished with them, I have a sheet tray with a cooling rack to put them on, so that way any excess oil from them can drain off and it doesn't stay on the fritter. I prefer to use this method than putting paper towel down, because with the paper towel it's still sitting in its own oil after it drips away. See those? All right, so we see how nice those look, and then we can check to see. All right, so let's check those fritters that we just took out. So I'm gonna break one, and you see how nice and fluffy the inside of that is, cooked all the way through. So that's what you're looking for, that nice pillowy inside. All right. So once you take them out, as you can see, I have them here on a rack, and they'll stay like that. And then the last thing we're going to do is then take them, put them in our cinnamon sugar, roll them around. As you can see how beautiful that looks with our cinnamon sugar. So they're like little donuts. And then we take them out and put them right back on our cooling rack. All right, and we let them cool, and then we'll keep frying this, and then I'll keep frying this out until it's done, and then I'll show you a few different ways on how we serve it. Okay folks, we're back, and I'm going to show you after our fritters have been cooked, 3 different presentations that you can use to serve these. That will bring a little bit of variety, but also give you the opportunity to use these fritters at different times. So the first one, if you wanted to use it as a dessert, I am taking just some store-bought caramel sauce and putting that on my plate. Nice little design. I'm going to take, so these I'm not going to add the sugar to them because I have already added the caramel to this one, so you don't need all that sweetness. Okay, so I'll add some of the fritters here and just add some more of the caramel right on the top. And so this would be your caramel banana fritters, all done up. The second one is what I call my brunch presentation. So here I have just a little bit of orange. And always try to make sure your garnishes are things that are in your food. So we use the zest from the orange. So now I'm just using a few slices of that orange here to decorate my plate. So I'm going to put my fritters down again. I have my orange, and then I'm just going to use some pancake syrup. Maple syrup if you have it. Some really good quality maple syrup is also perfect. And then I have here some crushed walnuts and cashews. All right, that goes right on the top. There you go. And then the third one is with the cinnamon sugar straight up. All right. So definitely try them. Let me know what you think. Enjoy.